Hey, what is up everyone, Blade here, and welcome back to another video of Persona 5X. Inside today's video, guys, you already see the title. We are going to be doing a tier list here, and this is going to be our normal monthly type tier list that I'm going to try my hardest to try and bring back, mainly because we haven't done them in quite some time. So we're going to be going ahead and doing over things, or at least doing everything over here and explaining our reasoning. Now, I'm going to do this first. Is the 4 stars are going to go first immediately, and I'm just going to place them exactly where they need to belong. I feel like some of them are self-explanatory. The ones who are way higher up than certain other characters, obviously I will have an explanation for those, but for the most part, I think a lot of them are just going to be easy to explain pretty easily, or self-explanatory. As for our 5-star characters, we're going to briefly explain some of the earlier ones, why they're there, but the newer ones is where we have to take in more of an in-depth look on it. So hopefully you guys do enjoy, and let's get straight into the video. So we have the SS tier being the peak of the peak here. Okay, how we're going to do this is for each of these as well, and each of the tiers being SS tier, S tier, we're going to try to keep at least one of each role inside of those ones here as well. So for some of the roles, there's going to be some characters that are up there. So like there's going to be a double AoE inside here, right? I think the most I want to have in the SS tier is probably 2 AoE characters, 2 like attack characters, 2 healer characters, those type of deals. And it's really going to come down to like how they perform, but those characters are going to be the top of their rolling. So we're just going to go from there. It'll make more sense as I do go here. But first things first is our 4 stars. Now our 4 stars here for a lot of the characters, we're going to start with the ones that are just at the bottom of the barrel. These should be easy characters that a lot of you guys should already know here, and that it's going to start off with Okayan. She was good for her time at the very beginning of the game, but afterwards you really don't use this, and the same can be said for Puppet. Both of these characters were exceptionally good at first when the game first was starting out, and then immediately got replaced at very early in. Next character that belongs at the bottom tier is going to be our man He, as well as Mont. Both of these characters are not very helpful. They're honestly both in the same situation where you're never going to use them. Mont does little damage. He does not help too much in the debuffing section, so there's no need to actually have them out. Closer's Closer. She's not as bad as a lot of characters, but she still is a terrible 4-star to have, so I put her in the D tier. Obviously, we're gonna have our girl being at least Moko in here as well, because compared to some of the 4 stars that are going to be higher, she's just not above the cut. Obviously, she's better than these dudes, and I'm not ranking from left to right, but in the D tier, she definitely belongs there as well. Next character going in the D tier is going to be Seiji, or not Seiji here, Sepia immediately. And this character itself, just not above the cut. I definitely feel like this character deserves to be in the D tier section, and this is probably where he's going to end up staying. And then obviously we are going to be moving Yuki inside of the D tier as well. Her lasting is not going to be too long. Of course, there's defender characters that are better options. Of course, if you're using Yusuke team, she is always a great choice, but that's pretty much the only place that you're going to use her, hence the reason why she's in D tier. So moving up to the C tier section here, we are starting to get to more of the 4 stars that are pretty decent or all right to go ahead and use here. And one of those characters is immediately going to go with Vino. Vino is exceptionally good. She's one of the few characters that you are going to use quite often as a 4-star unit, but I don't want to put her too high up on the list here because honestly, she's amazing to use. She's great to have, but she's one of the few characters that I do feel like belong at this tier. Now, the next character that's going to be joining her side here is going to be our man Soy. Now, Soy, he's exceptionally good on the global end. If this was global's tier list along and not just TW and KR's tier list, he probably would be at the B tier, just like Vino. But both of these characters are going to be based on their longevity, and this is also going to be for 4.7 downwards here. So I feel like this character definitely belongs in the C tier, and he does his role pretty darn well. He gets, of course, the attention that he needs to get. He has some debuffs. He has, of course, a ice move that can commit freeze, making it even better for you as well for living priority. So I mean, he's decent, just of course 4.7 wise, he is a little bit lower. So put him obviously down here, and this is all the 4 stars at their A6 variants as well, so don't worry about that. Then we have our next character that we're going to go ahead and check out, and that is going to be Luffy, as well as that's going to be Seiji. Now, both of these two characters, insanely good. Luful's great for obviously the healing that he does have, but it's just not worth it in the at least in the long game here. Although his heals are nice, he only really offers heals, a burn, and attack buff. So compared to most things that we're looking for in some of the 4 stars that are going to be above this, I feel like that he's just not going to be the best to use. Seiji himself is great, a nice DPS to have compared to some of the characters that we do have, but as a 4-star, it is holding him back by a lot. We have a ton more characters such as 5 stars that are obviously going to do a lot better here in that aspect, but overall these 4 stars should be around this little area, and I think that's kind of like a valid situation. As for the 4 stars that are going to be above them here, and some people can probably bite me on this one, it's going to be Luce. We're having our man, what's it called? How did I just forget his name? Leon, there it is, Leon and Rico. Now these 3 are probably like the big dogs of the 4 stars here, Luce being one that offers tons of different buffs and junk to his teammates here. He also can switch different forms, so I mean, like, that's great, or switch different what's it called, elements mid battle. So the man is able to give you like DOT, can help you out with attacking, damage bonusing. It's kind of worth actually putting him up here, though he is kind of a niche 4-star. So I mean, like, it honestly depends if you need a buffer or not. I would definitely say he's still a B tier 4-star here when it does come down to this. Next thing, of course, Leon, self-explanatory, don't need to talk about him. And then we have Rico. Rico has the buffs, she has debuffs, she's a Navi. All 3 of those things automatically are helpful for her, just case in point. Plus she can knock down the enemy's down gauge, which is great for spamming AOAs. So definitely a really good character to go ahead and use to have in the B tier section. But now, as you guys can see, that is all of our 4 stars here. Briefly went through all of those dudes really quickly. Let's go ahead and talk about some of our 5 stars who are also going to be very low. So in the C tier, because none of the 5 stars belong in the most bottom tier, I would say, but in the C tier here, we're going to be having a few characters. Morgana, Rin. Both of these characters immediately, I gotta say, Mona only has Windswept and only has overhealing. You really won't need it in the long term. It's just not good enough to keep him here. He's not in any teams. Heck, you barely even see him in Astrolab at times, and those are gimmick fights. And the character himself is just kind of meh. I do hope they give Morgana another variant later down the line as like a different 5-star character, because they did him pretty dirty, especially for like long-term use. Even On and them have way more long-term, and unfortunately Morgana isn't the case. Rin herself is like the bottom of the barrel for debuffing, so she is going to be up here. Of course, as an AoE debuffer, she's going to be a C tier character, way better than Key obviously, but compared to some of the other debuffers, she doesn't even belong to like get up to the B tier section, because it's just not worth putting her up here. But those 2 are obviously going to stay in the C tier section. So we're gonna go moving back up to the B tier section, seeing no more 5 stars I would say are in this area. But as for the B tier section, we're gonna place a couple characters in here, starting off with a couple AoE units. Now, since this is the middle tier, I don't mind putting multiple AoE units in this tier here, because they are kind of in that range here, and that is going to be On. We have Yusuke. We're also going to have what's it called, Summer, Motaha, and then we're gonna have our man Akechi. Now these characters aren't really all too bad. They all have their niche areas, where Yusuke himself is pretty decent, but now with the addition of Summer Puppet, he kind of got moved down. He no longer has his use inside of that element. As well, the only thing he does for damaging is off of counterattacks, and it's scaled off of his defense, which isn't all too good. His damage is very, very low, especially for the content at hand. So I feel like he deserves to be in the B tier area. Heck, if maybe C tier as well. But I want some of you guys to tell me down below where you feel like he belongs. On herself is exceptionally good. I love her to death. But with some of the other AoE characters who are going to be above her, it's just the time of obviously power creeping that happens, or either the time of this is a year 1 character compared to a bunch of year 2 characters that are obviously immensely better. She's insanely good still. She was great. She still can be used with Anj, but it's a character that without having that and just taking the character face value at A6, that she still would be in the B tier range. Then we have a couple of these characters being Crow and Motaha. Now, Under normal circumstances, if all the limited 5-star characters were A6, sure, they would be higher, but keeping these characters specifically at A0, both of them are absolutely terrible, or at least are not as good anymore. Motoha herself is not a terrible character, but with the current AoE ones that we do have inside the game, she doesn't really offer much to the table, except for, of course, scaling damage on her HP, max HP that she does have, which is always great, but it's just not enough for the long-term battle. As for Crow is a little bit different here. Crow is potential man on steroids. Just like Yusuke, they both had a ton of potential, but unfortunately the devs decided to throw them just a rock and say goodbye. Both of these characters need a huge rework, and Crow definitely needs one where you won't have any of his full kit until he's A6, which does suck a lot here. But still, full character, I do think he just belongs in B tier. Now going up, and well, I guess we can use one more here, and this is going to be Ryuji. I almost forgot the guy because he definitely doesn't belong in C tier, but Ryuji, another character that I do see as a B tier character, is because he's exceptionally good, especially at A6 value, which we will be taking for him himself, seeing that he's a standard character. He's exceptionally good, and he's also going to be good just like on with Anj, but both of these characters are really just saved by that one Navi, and without that they are still good, just they're not even better than a lot of characters to be deserved in A tier. One little character ended up sneaking beneath my nose here, and that was this one right here, being Riddle. She is at the top of C tier, even though I'm not scoring left to right, but she is a C tier character, so I'm gonna obviously put her there. We all know exactly why. Of course, this character as well doesn't have the best of buffs either, so I mean, like, it's kind of inefficient to go ahead and use this character, so I think she does belong here. Now moving up to our tier here, we are finally going to be moving around a little bit more, and this is the A tier section. Now A tier section, these characters are joining us. We have Joker being our only AoE character that I do think deserves to be kind of here, if I'm being honest here. A tier wise, I don't think he's bad at all. I think he does belong in that little middle section where he has some use, but he's not always going to have the most of use, which makes a lot of sense for this character. So we have him there, the only actual AoE character that's going to be there as well, so kind of interesting to see that. We will have Makoto being here as well as Mesa being here, both stellar DPSs that are single targets. The only problem is they always will have a downside, Makoto now being superseded by the nuke buoy, while also Mesa being absolutely dunked on. Now, although Ryuji does deal more damage than him, we're thinking of the character at face value, and this is without team purposes themselves here. I would say at face value, the character Mesa is actually a really good character and deserves to be higher, though in team value Ryuji is obviously higher because he does perform way better. Now there is a little bit of an argument with this one. Burst damage wise, of course Ryuji is going to be way better. Long-term damage wise, we might have Mesa being the better out of the two, but I'm gonna put Mesa up top at A0 either way. He's pretty darn decent. He has the DOT. He actually can deal some burst damage as well as a physical DPS. I think he deserves to be in the A tier section. Call me biased, but hey, I do think tier lists are meant to be debated, so if you don't like where his placement is, let me know down below in the comment section. Then we have Buoy. Buoy. This is a character that the only reason that she's higher than these two is because of her most recent buff, and this is because now her ult can actually go for 2 whole turns and last a lot longer. As good as this is, it doesn't make her any better to be in the higher tiers, but I do think it makes her a lot better to go ahead and be used. So I would say this character is definitely worth going ahead and using here and keeping her inside of the A tier. Although the real thing that you're really getting out is just her ult, meaning you can get twice as many follow-ups, which is the only thing that keeps her up here. Then we have our last 3 units, our last 2 units, one of them being Howler and the last one being Cherish. Both of these characters are exceptionally good. They're awesome. Cherish excels a crazy amount of defense techniques here. You do want to have him in your team. Sustainability is the last thing you really have to worry about, though he is one of the few characters I do have to say that is a little iffy. You don't have really many teams to put him in there, which is why he's in this middle section, and I think that's probably the best home for him. As for Howler is a really good character. She has a lot of teams that you really could place her in, The only downside to her is even though you have places to put her in, it's not always going to be the best of areas, especially when it comes down to most teams, because there are other debuffers that do a little bit better, some of them being Katayama, others being Matoy. I feel like they have a better standing than her, making her stay at the A tier area. Now, I was leaving out a few of these guys who are going to be joining the A tier section here. One of them is going to be Marion. Now, Marion is an exceptionally good character, just like Phoebe here. Both of these characters are good, but both of them are going to slowly be dying off. And the TW and KR section, they have not been used in quite some time. Marion is decent for heals, but that's an early game where we actually started using this character a lot. As times has passed, we've noticed that healers, debuffers, a lot of these characters aren't going to get used unless they come with some crazy buffs inside their kit. Marion luckily has a decent buff on her, but it's only a small pin buff, and that's if you have the A1. So I mean, like, in all honesty, A1 value, she does value herself in the A tier, much like Phoebe, where she's very valuable, but this character is really valuable if you're thinking of an A6 tier list, especially for what's it called, the time that she came in as a standard unit. I do think that she belongs in the A tier section, and she only recently got moved down here because of Fuka's release. So I mean, like, kind of makes sense on how she is now. Now we're gonna go ahead and move to our S tier section. Now the S tier section itself is gonna be a little bit iffy. This is where I'm gonna have to have a couple healers, and actually no, I want to put you in A tier, second guess myself, because this character here, to be honest, she's great with follow-ups, but her heals is a little meh. The really reason that you're using her is for the buffs. She's pretty decent, but not good enough to be in the S tier. Now, this section is going to be where all the big boys start to reside, where you guys obviously know why they're in here. And this is going to also be where we start to have double of the same attributes or roles in here a lot more often. So for the S tier section, we have a few characters joining us. The first one that we're going to go ahead and look at is our debuffer. Now, Matoy, she's insanely good. She's one of the few characters that can do a little bit of everything here, much like Howler. The reason that she's so great here is because you can easily get some damage taken buff, or at least debuffs on the enemy. You have technicals to your disposal. You have sustainability on your disposal. You're able to easily take down the enemy's defense, which makes her even more useful. This character also isn't that hard to build, and when she does release, she'll be useful in a ton of different teams. With the freezing ability that she does have on some of her skills, as well as her aspects to increase her damage based on her thieves that are in there, or based on the persona people that you have alongside of her, it just makes her an exceptionally good character. Only downside is she's very close to the release of the first Annie unit, so it kind of makes me not play her as much, or at least makes you not want to invest into her too much. But she is actually a really good character, and is probably one of the only debuffers I would have in the S tier section, besides of course Katayama. Now, Katayama, being Blitz here, is another good character that deserves to be in the S tier function, though we do have to keep in mind that this character at a A0 mount is where I would say she's in S tier. The only way she can get to the SS section is if you were like max duping this character, and let's be honest, this isn't the max dupe tier list. I feel like this is perfectly good to actually have her be at here, and it's probably the best place that you want to actually have her in. Reason being, she does have some down gauge things that allows her. She has an enhanced hit that's exceptionally good here for debuffing and just damage over time, which is always great to end up having. I think this character deserves the place she belongs in. She helps out with crit damage. She helps out with damage bonusing. I think this character kind of proves her worth as a debuffer to be in the S tier section. Now, the next few characters that we're going to go ahead and talk about here that belong in the S tier section are going to more likely be my supporters. Now, supporter wise, and I guess we could say healer wise too, because there's only one of these guys in each of these sections that kind of belong in the S tier section, and that is honestly just going to be these ones here. So support wise, tier wise, well, three of them actually, support wise, healing wise, all of these dudes belong in the S tier section, and that is going to be Rico, that's going to be Yukari, and then last but certainly not least, Ford. All three of these characters are exceptionally good. You're going to use Rico a lot for the crit damage value that she has, the SP value that she does have as well. Even putting her at an A1 position, I would definitely say that she's just really good at helping you out with high crit rate buffs and crit damage buffs. She's very helpful with going into multiple teams, which is the reason that she makes herself useful in the S tier section. Yukari as well as Cord, although they go into multiple teams here, Yukari gets most of her value out of at least being with C's characters. Though thankfully she does have some very good buffs that do keep her up afloat while also having a really decent heal. Cord herself heals, she of course makes you spam highlights, she makes you have an attack buff, eventually she's going to give us a shock buff on TW and KR as well. All of these things make her really good, but not to a point where she's SS tier anymore. That's mainly because even though she can fit into a ton of teams, I do think that Cord is slowly starting to die out just a wee bit, and if you don't have her really high awareness, I want to say invested, she's not going to be in that SS tier section. A1 invested for Cord, I would definitely say she's in the S tier, just not in that SS tier section as well, being as a really good character. Now, the next character that is going to be joining them inside of the buffer section is going to be Turbo. And I think Turbo is another character that's insanely good as well. You get obviously the extra turns, you're getting your pin buffs, you're getting your attack buffs, and your damage bonus buffs as well. All of this makes her exceptionally versatile as a character in total, that I feel like for her being an S tier, it's kind of criminal, especially as a standard character. I think the standard is the only thing that's really holding this character back, if I'm being honest, because if she was a limited, they probably would have made her even crazier than what she is right now. And I gotta admit, she's freaking insane. Her being at least an S tier character is why I do believe she needs to be, especially that a lot of her stuff is going to be based on her speed here, so she's able to help out everyone on the team, keep you sustained to some extent, while also absolutely pumping buffs inside of this character to galore status effects. So always good to have those characters right there. Now going into more of our DPS and Navi section here. All of these characters I believe belong in the S tier section, and this is why I had to wait to the S tier being a little bit later on, because they're not bad. I don't qualify any of them worse, or at least worse than the ones that are below them here, hence the reason why they're all going to be S. So there's going to be a lot of people added here. One of the first people added is going to be Haru. Exceptionally good AoE DPS here. With the countless amount of buffs that she's having, she has become an absolute AoE nuke monster. The only problem is we don't have a lot of content for her, so you're not going to see her flourish all too often, and she's really just tied to her one team, unlike other characters that prevents her to going to the SS tier. But she still is really good to actually have here, and I do think that she belongs in this section. The next character that belongs in this section as well is going to be Akihiko, as well as New Year Ren. Seeing both of these characters as AoE characters are all good, they're all freaking amazing, but with the characters that are now above in the SS tier, they're obviously just getting out damaged. Both of them have some very strong ones, such as CNY Ren is able to actually do technicals, which is very rare. We don't see many characters taking advantage of the technical side, while she also has DOT in her kit, so I mean, like, that's exceptionally good as well. With the new little fact of her gimmick being her sword, she does a ton of damage with that, but you do need to invest in this character to make her way higher than most characters. Now, the next character that we're going to go ahead and talk about is going to be Akihiko. Obviously, Akihiko is in the same area where, of course, he's helpful for downing characters. He has that pin rate, and he does some crazy good damage with the amount of crit damage he does prefer on, but he is also bound to a long-term team, or a team that really needs to revolve around that return factor, which does hold him back. Unlike some of the other AoE characters that can consistently hit consistently all the time, he does take a little bit of time to build up and take a little bit of time to get to that heavy hard hitting mode. So I would be putting him inside of the S tier area. The next characters that we're going to go ahead and look at for the S tier area here is going to be this character being Kazumi. Now, Kazumi as well as Mont, I feel like they're both on the S tier. Mont is obviously worse than Kazumi by a lot, but I don't think worse to the extent that she should be in the A tier area. So we're keeping them two together inside of the S tier area here. But like both of them are pretty darn decent. They just kind of get held back, and this kind of leads me to the addition of also Mitsuru, where all these characters, they deal really good damage. The only downside is they kind of need a lot of their teammates to support them. With Mont here, you need your teammates absolutely in tip-top performance to actually get your crits off, as well as you do need Mont herself to be in tip-top performance to get your crits off. And only one side of her is good, which is the wind side. The ice side we totally negate or just neglect in general. so it kind of holds her back into the S tier slide without being a really overpowered single targeter. Kazumi, on the other hand, is exceptionally good, but she revolves a lot on her team to really get her set up to then allow her to deal a huge amount of burst damage. Now, this burst damage is really good, but with the current way of things, how it's going, she's just not going to be able to keep up with the other two or the other few single targeters that we're going to be going over. That's obviously way more useful than she is. Mitsuru is in this same boat where she does a ton of damage by herself, but she's mainly a follow-up sub DPS, so I kept her in this segment, at least the S tier section, seeing that she still is exceptionally good. The only problem with her is she is a sub DPS at the end of the day, so majority of her DPS is going to be kind of like a catchies, where you need to have your main DPS deal a lot of damage to get her to deal a lot of damage. The good part about her is she's a catchy if was done right, which I would definitely say she definitely is done way better than he is, which kind of makes me sad to say that because I really do love Akechi quite a lot. But having her in S tier seemed pretty like a decent area to keep her, so I think this is always a good section to go ahead and keep her at. Now the next characters that are going to be joining her. Now I might get a little bit of crap on this one because, as I did say beforehand, there's only going to be 2 characters who are in the SS tier spot. Might get a little bit of crap for this. Some people may think I'm smoking something on this one, but hear me out. I do think Makoto Yuki is an S tier character. Now this character hits very hard. The only bad thing that I gotta say is, unlike the other characters that we're going to be talking about here, with as hard as he does hit with his crit damage, his pierce rate, and his damage bonuses here, this character is kind of let down by the fact that he can't go to swap from an AoE performance area, or he can't really go into that section. You know what? Nah. We're gonna betray our faith. I had this whole thing written down on my notepad. I'm gonna be honest with myself. I use this character way too dang much to actually put him in the S tier function. He's going in the SS tier function, and the main reason for this is because I think I'm gonna bend the rules a little bit here. This character is going to have, this section is gonna have 3 SS tiers for attackers, because it's kind of wild putting this man into an SS tier, or at least an S tier function. As good as he is, we gotta think this man hits record high numbers with damage bonus, crit damage, pierce rate. I'm not gonna put him into the S tier area because I just really don't think he's on the same par as these guys down here. I really don't think. He is definitely an elevated status when it does come down to the damage dealing for the S tier or the single targeters here. So I'm gonna keep him into the SS tier section, and joining him, which was the one I was going to put up here as well, is going to be Barry. But before we go ahead and put her up, I have to add in one last character that I do know some of you guys are going to be on my nerves about, and that's going to be Futaba. She is an S tier Navi at this point, and that's because Fuka as well as Anj are just in a whole different league. Futaba is insanely great. She's awesome. She does what she needs to do. She has weakness implant as well. But if you don't have this character duped up, she does not keep up with the program being in the SS tiers. So keeping her in S tier is actually a valid one in this circumstance. But as I was saying, we're going to go ahead and move these 2 being into the SS tier. Now, thorough reasoning why. We already explained Makoto, but Barry herself hits like a dang truck. This character has DOTs that can crit. She's able to hit hard with a highlight that does tons of damage plus a DOT status on it, so you're dealing some crazy damage over time with that. She hits exceptionally hard with her skill 1 and her skill 3. She has defense reduction, which honestly does not apply with most characters, which is insane to see just a single target to have this in their kit. So I do believe she does deserve to be in this section. Granted, if she had like her dupes, she would be way higher, but I do say that as a single targeter with DOT applied onto this too, she hands down is one of the strongest single targeters in the game. We have Bowie Prism, which is another character that I feel like is also exceptionally strong without a doubt. She has all attack damage, which is great. AoE damage, you don't have to knock the enemy down or anything like that. Just built into her skills, which is going to be her like skill 3. You're able to get these things that are going to help you out with dealing AoE damage, and man does she hit hard. I actually want to have a video for her very soon because she is really good at what she does, and she makes it very known here. With this in mind here, her highlight hits like a truck as well. And whenever she does have her little vegetable knights or have any of her little veggies with her, she's able to make sure she's giving multitude of different buffs and debuffs to the enemy, while also giving a huge amount of damage to the enemy as well. But that's always good. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one. Now, the next thing that we're gonna go ahead and talk about for our characters that are left over, you guys can already see where they're going. For AOA, or at least AOE types, we have Luce, and we also have Summer Puppet. These characters hands down are better. We've been seeing Luce recently, and he's about to come out, hit damage cap. I've never seen a character hit damage cap here at all, and he scales off of his HP. So Luce, I feel like, is one of the few characters that deserves to be here. He does have shields, he can revive, all of his damage is based on his HP, and the more of this he's able to keep his HP at a low standpoint, the more damage he's able to deal. Pretty darn easy to kind of like talk about this here, but he is definitely the first character to hit damage cap inside this entire game. So I definitely say, without a doubt, he is the #1 AOE character inside of the game. As for Summer Puppet here, Summer Puppet has follow-ups that hit way too dang hard for her, just for the goodness of any boss that she's facing. She's also able to freeze the enemy, meaning that they're going to take or at least deal a lot less damage than what they would normally deal. And her follow-up attack, as times does go on inside of her own domain, she's obviously dealing way more damage. So more follow attack that she has, the better it's going to be. The more that she just stays on the field, the harder her hits are going to deal. Alongside of this here, she's able to recover her SP, which is going to allow her to trigger a bunch of additional effects, which is going to make her exceptionally good as an AOE character as well. Definitely believe that she belongs in the top section for the SSs, and this leads us to obviously our last three. Crit damage wise, Marion is quite literally the best what's called supporter in the game, seeing that she helps out with crit rate, crit damage, allows you to actually debuff the enemy, allows you to use items without consuming a turn, while also helping you out with some extra buffs such as damage bonus. With the items that she has, she literally can buff up anything you want her to do, whether it's attack percentage, whether it's highlights, AOAs, you name it, she has it. She's able to do all of this without even spamming, or at least without losing her turn, making her very, very useful. She's definitely the #1 unit in the game when it does come down to the support section. So I obviously put her here as the #1 supporter. As for our last two navies, I don't really think I have to explain these two. We obviously have Anj up here being the anniversary unit, who has made herself very known that she's insanely good. She can help out with pure damage. She's able to debuff remove. She's able to give you damage bonus stacks. She's able to, of course, help you out with an extra turn as well as attack buffs. Everything that you want, she is able to obviously deal. And if you did want that extra turn to go to your #1 DPS, she makes that possible. All of this is great alongside with her being able to give you some very powerful buffs with her skill 1 and her skill 3. If you do end up having this character at least duped a little bit, which we're not going to talk about dupes with these 5 stars because then it'll look very, very skewed, but I'm just going to put this in perspective. If you're able to get a dupe for her, you're able to revive. You're also able to easily proc off all of your skills very quickly. So I mean, like, she makes it known that she is the #1 Navi, but she is closely followed on to by Fuka. Now Fuka's at the top here mainly because she does offer a lot of good things to the plate, being some crit damage buffs here, debuff removes, as well as attack buffs here. But the main thing that we're going to talk about is the ally swap. Technically, you have 5 characters in your team at once, and she is the only character who's able to do that. So being able to swap in a new character that can help you immensely change the field and immensely change how your buffs and debuffs are going to be working is a heavy good thing to have here, making Fuka in that range of SS tier. This is the tier list that I wanted to go along with. Originally, I was going to put Makoto down in the S tier, put Barry and Bowie at the top, but I'm gonna be so real with you guys. I had double take on that because if I'm being so real, these 3 are just running the game right now. If you're not using either 3 of these, especially at the current state of TW, KR, and CN, you're kind of out of your mind. I was not going to put him down too low because, man, I feel like that would have been just nonsensical. But you guys let me know down below in the comment section how y'all feel about this channel, or at least feel about this tier list here. I put a little bit of factual evidence in here, but in the next one where we're not scrambling to get everyone onto the tier list, we'll will be even more detailed. So look forward to that. For now, thank y'all for watching and peace out.